you ever wondered how your talents could have a bigger impact? Have you thought about how to find the balance between what you're good at and what you love to do? Well, in this episode, we'll be setting aside supernatural claims and focusing on what it means to live authentically and intentionally, using our talents to build better communities and better lives. Welcome to Mythologizing the Bible, where we'll be taking a look at 3 readings from the Christian Bible through the lens of sacred myth. As we reflect on the readings for the second Sunday in Ordinary Time, we're going to look beyond the traditional Christian narrative to uncover a few lessons that should resonate with all of us, regardless of our religious background or lack thereof. In this episode, we'll explore Isaiah's call to action, Paul's celebration of diversity, and a story from John's Gospel that challenges us to step up and make a difference. The readings tonight have a lot to say about how we use our talents, how we collaborate as a community, and how we show up for each other, even when it's technically not our job. We'll go beyond the ancient words and traditions and talk about the choices we make, how we identify our strengths, how we align them with what brings us joy, and how we use them to strengthen the world around us. So, grab a comfy seat, a glass of your favorite beverage, and let's look at some ancient stories together in this edition of Mythologizing the Bible, where we'll be exploring the readings for the second Sunday in Ordinary Time, Cycle C of the Roman Catholic Lectionary. In this series, we're exploring readings from the Bible through the lens of sacred myth, looking for interpretations and lessons that don't demand a belief in the supernatural. And what that means from a practical standpoint is that we will assume that these stories and writings are fiction, written by pre-scientific people who were just trying to make sense of the universe. Now, you might agree with the lessons I find, but I encourage you to look for something that rings true to you. Part of the beauty of understanding these writings as sacred myths is that we're free to interpret them for ourselves. We're free to learn the lessons that we need right now. So with that, let's dive in. As I said, tonight we'll be looking at the readings for the second Sunday in Ordinary Time, Cycle C. Our first reading is from Isaiah, chapter 62, verses 1 through 5. Our second reading is from 1 Corinthians, chapter 12, verses 4 through 11. And our gospel reading is from John. It's chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. Now, we'll start by going through all 3 of the readings, then we'll look for the messages and main lesson in each one, and finally we'll bring everything together, look at what it means for us today, and talk about where we go from here. So with that, let's begin. Our first reading is from the prophet Isaiah. For Zion's sake, I will not keep silent. For Jerusalem's sake, I will not remain quiet, till her vindication shines out like the dawn, her salvation like a blazing torch. The nations will see your vindication, and all kings your glory. You will be called by a new name that the mouth of the Lord will bestow. You will be a crown of splendor in the Lord's hand, a royal diadem in the hand of your God. No longer will they call you deserted or name your land desolate, but you will be called my delight, and your land espoused. For the Lord delights in you and makes your land his spouse. As a young man marries a young woman, so will your builder marry you. As a bridegroom rejoices over his bride, so will your God rejoice over you. Our second reading is from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. Brothers and sisters, there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in everyone, it is the same God at work. Now to each one the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. To one there is given through the Spirit a message of wisdom, to another a message of knowledge by means of the Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by that one Spirit, to another miraculous powers, to another prophecy, to another distinguishing between spirits, to another speaking in different kinds of tongues, and to still another the interpretation of tongues. All these are the work of one and the same Spirit, and he distributes them to each one just as he determines. And our gospel reading is from John. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now." What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. All right, so let's go back and take a critical look at these readings and see what learnings and lessons we can find if we dig around just a little bit. So our first reading was from Isaiah, and in this reading, we find a rather stirring passage that celebrates renewal and hope for the people of Israel after their exile. The prophet speaks with confidence, portraying a grand vision of a glorious future just filled with prosperity and peace and justice. It's all guaranteed by God's unwavering commitment. But when we step back and look at this text through a historical lens, we see that things didn't turn out as promised. The Hebrews faced continued struggles and hardships. So was this a failure of God, or did it turn out that what Isaiah was saying was simply the wishful thinking of a people desperate for hope? And from a humanistic perspective, this passage reveals an important truth. When people feel powerless, they often look outside themselves for salvation. But real change doesn't come from waiting for a savior. It comes from collective action and determination. The optimism of Isaiah's words, it can be infectious, but it also illustrates a common human tendency to place responsibility for the future in the hands of some higher power. It's comforting to believe that someone or something greater than us will step in and make everything right. But believing it doesn't make it so. As much as we might long for peace and justice, history and our own experiences show us that progress happens when people come together to make it happen. Relying on thoughts and prayers without action is a recipe for stagnation at best. Change requires effort, persistence, and frankly the courage to confront injustice head on. What Isaiah's vision reminds us of, however, is the power of hope as a motivator. Even if the prophet's promises were misplaced, his words inspired a community to keep going, to dream of a better future. That's the part we can embrace. Hope paired with action. That can be transformative. It's not enough to dream of a world filled with peace and fairness. We have to roll up our sleeves and work for it. Whether that means advocating for justice, building stronger communities, or tackling issues like poverty or inequality. The lesson here is pretty clear. We are the ones who create the future that we want to see. So the main lesson I got from our first reading is that we need to roll up our sleeves and get to work. Isaiah's words remind us that hope alone isn't enough. While it's important to dream of a better future, we have to take action to make that dream a reality. Change isn't something that happens to us. It's something we make happen together through effort and determination. If we long for peace, justice, and a better world, then we can't just wait for salvation to come from the outside. We need to roll up our sleeves and get to work. Our second reading was from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. And in this reading, Paul speaks to the importance of diversity within a community. He highlights the idea that everyone brings unique gifts, skills, and talents, and that no one gift, which is the term he prefers to use, no one gift is more important than another. Paul's point is a powerful one. Communities thrive when their members recognize and celebrate their differences, rather than letting those differences divide them even more. And while Paul attributes these gifts to a single divine source, the lesson for us is clear. Our strength doesn't lie in uniformity. Our strength is in the diversity of perspectives and abilities and the different contributions that each person offers. This passage also touches on an issue that's really all too common today, the tendency to elevate the source of our talents over the hard work it takes to develop those talents. When an athlete credits their victory to divine intervention, it diminishes the years of practice, the dedication of coaches, and the teamwork that made their success possible. Likewise, when people believe their abilities are given to them, they might overlook the effort, the learning, and the perseverance that's required to hone those skills. Instead of focusing on where our talents come from, we should celebrate the commitment it takes to nurture and use those talents to benefit our communities. Paul was addressing a divided community, and his message about unity through diversity remains incredibly relevant today. Our world faces countless challenges that can only be solved through collaboration. Each of us brings something unique to the table, whether it's creativity, analytical thinking, empathy, leadership, or just the willingness to work hard and persevere, and setting that example for others. And it's the combination of these gifts, these talents, these abilities and skills, it's the combination that creates innovation and progress. When we embrace and nurture our differences, we create communities that are not only stronger, but also more compassionate and more inclusive. Diversity isn't just a nice idea. It's a necessity for solving problems and building a better world. So, the main lesson I got from our second reading is that diversity strengthens us all. Paul's words remind us that diversity isn't a weakness to overcome. It's a strength to celebrate. When we recognize the unique contributions of each person, and when we work together, we build communities that are resilient, innovative, and that are united by a shared common commitment to progress. Our talents and gifts aren't just given to us. They're developed through effort, practice, and collaboration. When we nurture those gifts and use them to help others, we contribute to something so much greater than ourselves. And the simple fact is that diversity strengthens us all. Okay, our final reading was from the Gospel of John. And this was the story of the wedding at Cana, which is often interpreted as Jesus' first miracle and the beginning of his public ministry. And it's the basis for countless dad jokes. But beyond the supernatural framing, this story offers a rather powerful lesson about stepping up when it's needed. Right? When the wine runs out, Jesus is initially hesitant. He says, "Woman, why do you involve me?" Now, it sounds rude, but he's not really being rude. It wasn't his role as a guest to fix the situation. Someone else was responsible for ensuring that there was enough wine. But when the need became apparent, he did act. Now, this moment reminds us that leadership and service aren't always about titles or assignments. They're about recognizing a need and using our talents to meet that need, even when it's not officially our job. What's perhaps striking is how Jesus not only solves the problem, but goes above and beyond. He doesn't just produce wine, he makes excellent wine, earning praise from the master of the banquet and probably the guests, and in doing so, he elevates the host's reputation. It's a lesson in integrity and generosity. When we step up to help, we should aim to do more than just the bare minimum. Using our talents to their fullest potential not only solves immediate problems, but also uplifts the people and communities around us. It's a reminder that our talents are most impactful when they're paired with a commitment to excellence, even in unexpected circumstances. The story also highlights the importance of community. The guests at the wedding had diverse roles. There were hosts, servers, there were attendees, there were the bride and groom, there was the master of the banquet. But when something went wrong, it was Jesus' unique talent or ability that saved the day. In a diverse community, there's almost always someone with the right ability, the ability to step up when others fall short. It isn't about perfection. It's about collaboration and the willingness to act when it's needed. Whether it's fixing a mistake, filling a gap, or going beyond expectations, each of us has something to contribute. And this story challenges us to recognize those moments and take action, even when it's technically not our responsibility. So the main lesson I got from our gospel reading is that you should use your gifts even when it's not your job. The wedding at Cana reminds us that stepping up to help isn't always about duty. It's about recognizing when our talents can make a difference. When we use our talents to address a need, we strengthen the bonds of community, and we demonstrate the value of service and generosity. Even when it's not officially our job, stepping in when we're able is an act of leadership and compassion. With diverse talents in a community, someone is always equipped to rise to the occasion. So you should use your gifts even when it's not your job. All right, let's review the lessons we've talked about so far. In our first reading from Isaiah, the main lesson I came away with was we need to roll up our sleeves and get to work. In our second reading from 1 Corinthians, the main lesson I got was diversity strengthens us all. And finally, the main lesson I got from our gospel reading was you should use your gifts even when it's not your job. When we embrace the idea that our gifts and talents are meant to benefit the community, we create something that's truly remarkable, a culture of shared responsibility and mutual support. It's not about waiting for the right person to step up. It's about recognizing that each of us has a role to play and other roles that we can play, even when it's not technically our job. Whether it's rolling up our sleeves to get to work, celebrating the diversity that strengthens us, or stepping in when others fall short. The message is the same. Communities thrive when everyone contributes. By using your unique gifts with generosity and intention, we make the world a more compassionate, innovative, and resilient place. Let's stop asking whose job it is and start asking how we can help. Because together we can accomplish so much more. So let's step back and take another look at these readings overall and see if we can figure out what these messages really mean to us in our daily lives. To do this, I'll try to answer two questions. So what and now what? Okay, so what? Why should we care about any of this? Well, let's get real. How many times have you seen someone give up on something they care about because they didn't think they were gifted enough? Or worse, how often do people push forward in a direction that clearly isn't working simply because they believe God is calling them to it? These ideas, rooted in supernatural beliefs, they have real-world consequences, and not in a good way. We should care about this because talents aren't gifts. They're skills we develop. It's unfortunate how this supernatural language about gifts from some divine being has crept into our secular vocabulary. When my boys were younger, they were in the gifted and talented programs at school. We were very proud about it. But what does that say to all of the kids who weren't in those programs? God didn't give them any gifts and they have no talent? This is important because when people believe their abilities are divinely given, they often assume those talents will come easily. But the truth is, skill takes work. Whether you're an artist, an athlete, a teacher, a scientist, whatever it is, greatness doesn't just appear overnight. It's built through practice, effort, and persistence. By simply moving past the idea of supernatural gifts, we can embrace a growth mindset that allows us to improve and thrive. We should care about this because no talent is inherently superior to another. Too often, society, including many Christians, place those with certain skills on a pedestal. A talent that earns money is often seen as more valuable than one that brings joy or helps others in quieter ways. That mindset can discourage people from pursuing things they can do well and be both proud and passionate about. Let's reject that hierarchy. A teacher's ability to inspire students is just as valuable as an entrepreneur's ability to grow a business. Every skill has its place in making our communities and our lives richer. This is important because passion alone isn't enough. It needs to align with reality. Sometimes people hold on to the idea that their passion is a divine calling, even when it's clear their efforts aren't yielding results. It's not about giving up. It's about redirecting energy towards something that fits both your interests and your strengths. There's no shame in reassessing and pivoting. When we step away from the idea of a God-given destiny, we open ourselves up to exploring opportunities that feel fulfilling and are achievable. We should care about this because when we focus on natural development, we unlock our potential. The beauty of setting aside supernatural expectations is that it allows us to look at ourselves honestly. What are we naturally good at? What do we love enough to practice and refine? When we align our efforts with those questions, we find fulfillment that feels, well, divine, even if it's grounded entirely in human effort and connection. And that's the real magic. Discovering how much we can achieve when we trust ourselves and the process. We should care about all of this because beliefs about talents being divinely assigned can limit us. They can make us give up too soon, undervalue certain abilities, or hold on to unrealistic expectations. But when we let go of those beliefs, we find freedom. The freedom to explore, to grow, and to thrive in ways that are truly, truly inspiring. And the last question I try to answer is, now what? What are we supposed to do? Where do we go from here? Well, we've explored how talents aren't supernatural gifts, but skills we develop through effort and persistence. We also talked about the importance of aligning those talents with the things that we enjoy doing, because when we find that overlap, we unlock a path to fulfillment and growth. But this isn't easy to figure out. So let's take a step back and reflect on it a bit. With that in mind, here's your question for the week. What are 3 things you're naturally good at, and how do they overlap with activities or pursuits that bring you joy? The idea here is simple: to connect the dots between your abilities and your passions. When you reflect on what you're naturally good at, you gain insight into where your strengths lie. And when you think about what brings you joy, you discover what motivates and inspires you. Finding the overlap between the two helps you identify areas where you can thrive, not because of divine intervention, but because you're working in alignment with your natural abilities and interests. A few years ago, I was talking with a guy I was informally mentoring. He'd been working for a long time, diligently trying to identify all the areas where he thought he was weak so that he could fix them. He told me that he was sure the path to a senior management position was by ensuring he had no weaknesses. It was amazing how much time and focus he had put into identifying all of his weaknesses. And he wanted to talk to me about the plans he was making to improve in all the areas he believed he was weakest in. He wanted my opinion on those plans. Instead of commenting on his plans for improving his weaknesses, I asked him, "What are your strengths?" He rambled on some more about the importance of getting better in those areas where he was weakest, because a strong senior manager can't have weaknesses. He didn't answer my question, so I asked him a different one. Do you see me as a strong senior manager? And he said, absolutely. That's why I wanted to talk to you about this. I couldn't help but chuckle, even though he was dead serious. I asked him, well, what do you see as my weaknesses? He just gave me this confused look and didn't say anything. I asked him again, if you had to counsel me on a couple of my weaknesses, what would they be? He said, well, that's my point. I don't see any weaknesses in you. Ah, bingo. I said, you don't notice any of my weaknesses. Not because I don't have any weaknesses, but because I account for them, but I don't focus on them. I double and triple down on my strengths, and I keep doing that over and over and over again until all people really notice are my strengths. My strengths are my X factor. That's what I bring to the table. So I just continue to double and triple down on them. And then I build a team that's strong in the areas where I'm weak. I said, think about it. At this point in your career, your weaknesses probably exist because of some combination of not having enough training and experience in the area and not enjoying doing whatever it is, which could be why you don't have much experience in the area, because you don't enjoy doing it. With a superhuman effort, you might turn one or two of your weaknesses into strengths, but it's more likely that the best you can hope for is achieving average competence. So while you're putting forth superhuman effort to become average, I'm having fun pouring my time and energy into making my strengths even stronger and building a team that's strong where I'm not. And we all look like superheroes because of it. In that scenario, who do you think is going to be more successful? He heard me, and he understood what I was saying, and we talked about it a bit more. In fact, he's mentioned it a few times since then. But he never really took the advice to heart. He did manage to make it into a senior management position, but he's considered mediocre at best, and he gets shuffled around whenever an executive just gets fed up with him. Don't be that guy. Wherever you are in your career or your life, if you focus on finding where things you're good at intersect with things you enjoy, that's probably a great place to put more time and more energy. It'll likely help you and everyone around you. That's why taking the time to answer this question isn't just about self-reflection. It's about creating a roadmap for how you can live a more meaningful, engaged life. When you focus on what you're good at and enjoy doing, you're more likely to persevere, you're more likely to improve, and you're more likely to make a real impact in your community and beyond. So grab a notebook, jot down your answers, and see where your natural talents and passions lead. You might just surprise yourself. Well, before I wrap things up, I'd like to leave you with one more thought. The German-French theologian Albert Schweitzer once said, "Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you are doing, you will be successful." His words remind us of an important truth. Success and fulfillment don't come from chasing external validation. They come from finding joy in what we do and then letting that joy drive our efforts. This ties directly to the question we just explored, identifying where your natural strengths meet the activities you truly enjoy. It's not about following your passion as if it's something external to you. It's about cultivating passion by bringing your strengths to what you're doing. This quote shifts our focus from external markers of success to the internal satisfaction of doing something meaningful. When you work in that sweet spot, the intersection of your talents and joys, you create a virtuous cycle. The more you enjoy what you do, the more effort you put into it. The more effort you put in, the better you become. And the better you become, the more fulfillment you find. It's a virtuous cycle. But here's a critical point. Not everyone has the opportunity to work at a job they naturally enjoy. So the lesson in that case is slightly modified. Instead of finding the sweet spot where talents and joys intersect, you'll need to create that sweet spot, at least temporarily. If happiness is the key to success, then bring your strengths and your joy to whatever you're doing. Working as a janitor cleaning bathrooms? Well, have the cleanest damn bathrooms any customer has ever seen. Are you flipping burgers and making fries? Well, be the best, most efficient member of the team with the highest quality standards, and do it with joy. Figure out what your strengths are and find a way to apply them to the job at hand, and do it with a smile on your face. I guarantee you that you won't be in an entry-level job for long, and you'll have the satisfaction of knowing you're bringing your A game. Keep it up long enough, and it's a lot more likely that you'll work your way into a position where you can find more natural enjoyment. Bring the passion, and the passion will eventually grow. I guess the real takeaway here is that success isn't something we pursue, it's something we create when we work from a place of alignment, or when we align our work efforts with our values and strengths and add in a healthy dose of joy. By focusing on our strengths, you can bring passion to your work, to your hobbies, or your contributions to the community. That's where the magic happens. Not in following your passion, but in bringing it with you wherever you go. All right, we've come to the end of this episode. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back again next week, but in the meantime, I encourage you to engage with our question for the week and pay attention to the important lessons you come across wherever you find them. You'll create a more purposeful and joyful life, and you'll start to feel more connected to the world and the people around you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mythologizing the Bible as we did a deeper dive into the readings for the second Sunday in Ordinary Time, Cycle C of the Roman Catholic Lectionary. Remember that when we let go of the belief that our talents are divinely assigned, we find the freedom to explore, to grow, and to thrive in ways that are truly inspiring. The Bible readings used for this episode are from the Holy Bible, New International Version, NIV, copyright 1973, 1978, 1984, 2011, by Biblica Inc., used by permission, all rights reserved worldwide. Thank you for listening. If you like this content, please consider telling a friend about it. The more people who hear the positive messages I'm sharing, the better. Mythologizing the Bible is a live-streamed series held most Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/thecodaproject. Every week, the audio of these Mythologizing the Bible presentations is released as a podcast. You can find both the podcast and the video versions of the presentations at thecodaproject.com. CODA stands for Creating Our Divine Alignment. When we learn to align our words and actions with our core values, that alignment feels absolutely exquisite. It feels divine. But it's a divine alignment that doesn't require belief in the supernatural. It's a divine alignment we have the ability to create for ourselves. To learn more, to subscribe to my mailing list, and to keep up on everything I'm doing with the Coda Project, please visit thecodaproject.com.